Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we uncover the leadership life hacks that help you to experience breakout performance faster and rocket to success. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
The number one thing that contributes to customer loyalty is emotions. So move onward and upward faster by gaining significantly deeper insight and understanding of your customer journey and personas with emotional intelligence. With your empathy mapping workshop, you'll learn how to evoke and influence the right customer emotions that generate improved customer loyalty and reduce your cost to operate. Get over your emotional hump now by going to empathymapping.com to learn more. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because I have somebody on the show today who actually gives us some practical insights on the global customer experience world. Ian Golding is a born and bred Londoner with his older brother, Mark. Ian claims that he received the brains and the beauty. Well, wait a minute. We'll have to find out about that. Ian's dad was an accountant, and for over 20 years, Ian's dad had aspirations that Ian would become an accountant as well. Ian decided to rebel. Ian's dad was also a committed soccer fan. You would imagine that coming from London, he would have been a fan for the world famous teams like Arsenal. But unfortunately, not only was he not an accountant, he's a fan of the mighty Leyton Orient. He's amazed that he turned out okay. Having obtained a business degree, Ian landed his first job in the financial services industry, the start of a 17-year career in a variety of corporate organizations. In the late 1990s, Ian ended up working with GE, a career and life-changing experience. Having ultimately become certified as a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, he had the profound realization that every fiber in his body was focused on helping organizations to do the right thing for customers. In 2012, he finally decided to set up his own business, advising, guiding, and teaching organizations about the tools and techniques necessary to turn customer focus into a sustainable reality. In almost 6 years, he has worked in 37 countries with over 90 different organizations in multiple industries. Ian has also become an avid writer in the subject of customer experience, publishing over 400 articles because he spends a lot of time on a plane, that's why. His first book, which will probably be one of many, is titled Customer What? In 2005, Ian relocated from London to the beautiful Roman city of Chester in the northwest of England, where he lives with his wife Naomi, 3 children, Kira, Katie, and Jack, 2 dogs, and a tortoise. When he can, Ian runs a lot and has completed 28 half marathons and 3 marathons, one dressed as a Pink Panther. Ian Golding, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I am, as long as you don't talk about the Pink Panther.
Well, I can't make any promises, my friend, but I've given our Legion a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
You know, my current passion, genuinely, and I don't want to sound sad, but it's the pleasure I get in helping people do this stuff, to do the stuff that people think is so easy. It's an intuitive thing. I love seeing people realize that they can actually take something like customer experience and make genuine change. And so many people are finding it hard to do that when I get a phone call from someone saying, Ian, they just told me that this is amazing, that is what I wake up for in the morning, apart from my family.
You know, as you were talking, and of course I believe in the family thing too, that's for sure, is that, customer experience and the discipline of customer experience, it's, for a lot of organizations, they're, dismissing it and saying, no, it doesn't pay off. There's really no benefit for us to go through these transformational processes. But
yes,
obviously it's one of those issues where it requires a whole lot of effort to do, and it's not easy. So when you start thinking about the common things that you're seeing with organizations when it comes to going through the transformation process, for those who are saying, you know what, this is the way, what are you coming across?
The reality of this, and it was last year that one of my, someone in a training course that I was delivering said to me that she realizes now that customer experience is a science. And I think it was one of the best, slightly profound descriptions of what we do that I'd heard, because she said she knows, she's always known intuitively as a leader that it's important, but she didn't realize that actually, if you don't understand the science, you're just talking, and you are talking about something that makes sense, but you won't actually change behavior. And what I'm seeing in organizations all over the world, actually, so this lady was in South Africa, but I see it in mainland Europe, I see it in the Middle East, is that that there is such a big disconnection or misconnection between leadership and the rest of the organization. And as a result, what is happening, and what has happened probably for the last 20 years, is that most customer experience efforts have relied on people like you and me, practitioners who've been on the inside, who have known this is the right thing to do. When they started to do it, you probably didn't realize it was a science either. They've developed that science over time. But whilst we've been doing that, the people still running organizations of all shapes and sizes have not developed their own learning to realize that this thing does make a difference.
Okay, that's a really interesting point, because I was actually watching somebody present something the other day about their particular niche and industry, saying how one of the biggest issues that people had, and I think they were talking about technology selection is what it was, or a service provider selection process for an outsourced relationship, something that wasn't a core part of their business. But what they were saying is that people are so absorbed with what they have to do within their own four walls that they often just don't have the opportunity or the time to do some of that education piece. What's going on out there. And so when they go to make their decisions and they get pressured to have, you got to do something, you got to move forward, they're kind of stuck with what they already know. They don't know what they don't know, is what the person was saying.
Absolutely. I totally agree. But that's, to me, there is always an excuse. Okay, there is always a reason not to do something. And this is a horrible analogy, but it's like losing weight. We always want to lose weight, but when do you start? When is the right time to start? Because, we're going out for dinner tonight, so I'll do it tomorrow. No. Well, actually, no, tomorrow I've got the party, so we'll do it. And you never end up changing the habit. And, I think, unfortunately, business, or not just commercial businesses, but any organization, we have been almost brainwashed into believing that there is a way organizations are run. And there are things that people do, and they have certain tasks they need to perform. They have numbers they need to hit. And because that's the way it's been done for decades, centuries in some cases, when you start to realize that actually the way that organizations traditionally have built themselves to interact with others is actually quite inhuman, and that what we're trying to do here is to change the nature of the way people think about the things they do. People often will accuse us of being evangelical, but that takes it to a different level. But it's true. The politics of corporate organizations is the biggest single thing that is holding back the science of customer experience becoming something that truly helps them succeed. Those who eliminate the politics are the ones who will win.
Oh, man, you really hit a chord for me on that one. I had this conversation the other day with a particular counselor within an education organization. And I had mentioned something about the fact that when it comes to brain science, we've learned a lot about how the brain works just within the past few years. It's been a very short window because of some of the technologies that just didn't exist that now exist, so that we can do, brain mapping and all these other things that, we're slowly getting a better understanding of how that thing works. And I said, if an educator is essentially teaching within the classroom like they were 3 years ago, that's a problem, because we've learned so much about how people learn, kids, adults, all of that. And if we haven't adapted as educators, we're doing them a disservice. And her reply to me was, well, the teachers at our school are actually teaching students how they would become successful in our school. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. That was such a political response.
This is the thing. And I suppose the biggest challenge for our industry is that there is a lot of doom and gloom at the moment. There's a lot of people predicting the end of CX is nigh, and it's going to go the same way as this, that, and the other. And I am one of those people. I wrote an article at the end of last year that talked about the 7-year itch. We've reached this point. But the thing is, it's not all doom and gloom, but we are definitely at a point where people are starting to question, does the science really work? Now, the science does work. There are enough publicly available studies around the world that have proven beyond doubt. All right, and the fact that we have to keep, saying that till we're red in the face is quite remarkable. So, if anyone wants to have an argument about does doing the right thing for the customer make money, then good luck to them. The point is that what we have got to try and reinforce in people's minds that until those who run organizations recognize that the best way for them to build a legacy, the best way for them to achieve their goals in the long term are to do the right thing for the organization, not for themselves. But, the thing is, we have become, I think, especially in the last 30, 40 years, even more so, as a humanity, very greedy. And people want to make money, and they want to make as much money as they can, as quickly as they can. And, that unfortunately does not align with the principles of customer experience. And if you want a successful customer experience approach to be embedded into the organization, if there is even a sense of that happening, it's never going to work. And, again, I don't want to sound like I'm being too brutal about this. I am being brutal about it, but it's true. And, the biggest likelihood of success is if the person who is brought in to drive the approach to customer experience is brought in by a CEO who is going to stay in the organization for 10 to 20 years. If that's the case, it will work. And that's the problem. How many organizations are led by people who stay there for the long term?
I think you bring up a really interesting point, and is that I think they say the average tenure, for example, just of a chief marketing officer is like 2.5 years. Well, absolutely. For many CX organizations, that's who that person reports up to. So, why is that tenure such that it is?
That's right. And so some of it is lack of ability to focus. Some of it is because those individuals are very ambitious and they want to make money and they want to move on and this is why my man crush, as I always say, is Jeff Bezos, who probably is the man crush for many CX professionals, but he is my man crush because he's the perfect example of someone who created something with a desire to do it a certain way, and he's still there, still doing the same thing however many years later. Now, the risk to Amazon, the biggest risk to Amazon is what happens when Jeff Bezos retires. Already we can see with Apple, which is not the most customer-centric of businesses, but we can see that how the nature of that dynamic has changed since, sadly, Steve Jobs passed away. But I always say, how many truly transformational leaders can you reel out? There are so few of these guys. There are so few people who have that genuine commitment, not just to make money in the short term, but to see something through in the long term. And that's what, sadly, customer experience relies on, long-term business focus.
I mean, it is true. I mean, it's easy to get a short-term gain, but can you do it, a time after time after time and continue to do it, for not just your lifetime, but it's the lifetime of the people and their families. I mean, and it's a generational impact. Absolutely.
And that's some people have actually said to me, because money has never been my motivation, and I know it sounds that, no, come on, Ian, that can't be true, but it's true. Of course I need to make a living and I've got a family that I need to support and everything else. But I don't do what I do for the money. I do it because this is my vocation. I love doing this. The thing is, you get to a point where a few weeks ago, someone described me as a philanthropist, which I still find difficult to say. But they were basically saying, almost suggesting that I'm giving this stuff away. Now, they weren't saying in a derogatory way, but, I think that's really interesting that someone sees me trying to do the right thing and they still think that I'm giving something away. What am I? Do you know what I mean? It's a difficult thing to describe, but you will understand more than many.
Well, for me, I could see what somebody would say from that perspective if you start thinking about it from a betterment of the world perspective. Because philanthropy, to to me, that's one of the areas that they try to focus on is that, I want to make an impact on the world.
Yes.
And really what you just talked about, I mean, the entire, your bio and everything else, I mean, and all the work that you're doing and all the different countries that you've traveled and all the different, that's what you're doing, Ian.
It's so cool, and but that's the point, is that I think now I'm on the other side. As you described, I spent 17 years as an employee, 17 years smashing my head against a brick wall, being made to feel, stupid, and I wasn't right for a business. I now know that I was always right. No, I don't want that to sound the wrong way. There are many times I'm wrong, but what I was trying to do was the right thing, even though at the time it felt like it was the wrong thing. And now I'm in a position where people are asking me to help them, and that is a wonderful thing. And does it sound too much to say that I want to change the world? To some people, maybe, but genuinely, I think the CX profession can change the corporate world, and it's not just me. I think there are many of us who, by doing what we're doing, there is no doubt, despite the doom and gloom, we are having a massive impact on the way businesses, organizations of all shapes and sizes are thinking about the way they work.
Okay, I want to really point in on, or hone in on something you said just a moment ago as far as that head banging on the wall and all of that stuff, is that there's a lot of people in organizations that are probably going to listen to this episode that are like, gosh, then I just need to get out. I actually want to say that the reason that you have those frustrations is because you're a creative individual. And what organizations do to creative individuals is cause them to bang their heads on the wall.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And, interestingly, I talk about three types of employees in organizations. And it's a description someone else gave to me, but I love the description. But I call it the thriver, survivor, and nosediver. So, and there is almost certainly an academic study that will translate those into academic terms. But, around 15% of all organizations have thrivers. The people that want to do the right thing, that love change, but those people too often, their voice isn't heard, or, they speak, but no one's listening. And what happens is that the 15% at the other end of the spectrum, the nosedivers, the ones who've been there for too long, they come in just to pick up the paycheck, they hate the job, but they don't have a choice. Those guys try and drag everyone else down with them. And you leave that 70% of the masses in the middle who are just surviving. That they're turning up at work every day and they're hearing the nosedivers say everything's terrible. That they see the frustration in the thriver. What we need to do, you're absolutely right, is to give the thriver hope. And, I think what I see so often around the world, and interestingly, I've done a lot in Africa, and I've been to countries where there is not a great deal of disposable income. These are places that are very different, but they are thrivers. They want knowledge. They want to know, how can we make this better? And when you start talking to them about the science of customer experience, their eyes open, because they are, right, I'm going to do something with this, and they go and do it. And in a way, it's fascinating to see, a country like Zimbabwe that has nothing, but it's got people in there that want to do better. They want to take things forward. And I suppose one of the things that gives me hope is that the world is very imbalanced economically, but academically it isn't. And I'm very much hoping we'll see some of these smaller economic parts of the world increase in their capability as they continue to do the right thing.
Well, I mean, that's why they call them emerging markets, right?
That's right. Yeah. And they really are.
So I think also one of the things that you pointed out is coming from a point of scarcity, you end up appreciating things quite differently from, a world that is filled with abundance. And that's one of the things, trying to raise kids. And, when they have all of the abundance, of things around them, I jokingly say, I'm going to drop your tail off in a third world country for 3 months so that you can actually experience, what it's like to not have all of these things that you take for granted.
Absolutely. And what I say is I don't say that to my kids because they get that. I say that to CEOs. You take everything for granted. You need to go and sit, not in this nice, beautiful, 30th floor office, but you need to go and see what the real world is like. You need to go and sit where your customer's sitting and see what happens to them again, our community knows all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, we've become a society generally that just expects things to come to us. We expect the money to come. We expect the customers to come. And, yes, people will say the right things, but until they're prepared to change that behavior and put other people before themselves, that we're not going to see fundamental changes. Does that mean CX as a profession dies? No. What it actually means is that our profession becomes even more important. And it needs more and more of us to keep doing the things we do.
Good deal. Okay, so what we're talking about here, is just loaded with a ton of inspiration, a ton of frustration. And that emotion is something that we like to point to as for with quotes on the show. Is there a quote or two that you like to share that will help us, think differently?
So I want to repeat what I said at the beginning, because it is the most profound quote anyone has ever shared with me. Now, the lady who said it doesn't like me telling anyone it was her that said it. Interestingly, because she's a very humble person herself. It's not about her, but her exact words were, I always knew that customer experience was important, but I didn't realize it was a science, and behind the science is a heart. And for me, that is, and actually I have put that quote in my book, albeit without her name, but she knows it's her. But that for me sums everything up. We know it's important, but it is a science, but you cannot apply the science with a little bit of humanity behind it.
That's a good quote, and it's true. I think that's where some of that philanthropy. See, I can't even say it. Philanthropy piece comes from.
I struggle.
So I know we've talked about a lot of the things that you have that are going on. You're doing a bunch of travel. You've hit 38 countries, and you said this year that number is definitely going to go up even more. But you've got a lot of things going on. Family's important. But if you looked at one goal, what would it be?
I think one of the challenges, and this is personally me, is that, as you can tell, I'm so passionate about this stuff. This is from a work perspective, this is my reason for being. But what I can't do is be in 38 different countries all at the same time. And so my goal is to change people's perception of people like me and the CX community, that what we are here to do is to help as many people as possible, to give them the knowledge, to give them the tools, to give them the guidance. This is not about competition. And, I find it really difficult when people don't believe me, and I'll say to someone in a different country, talk to me and I'll help you. And they won't, because they think I want their business. No. What I want genuinely as a goal this year is a more open community that works with each other and supports each other to take this further. Because, as I've said, organizations need us more now than ever. But if we're not working with each other, it's not going to happen. I've never worked out how many commercial organizations there are in the world, but I suspect that there are enough to put around the 700 odd CCXPs and however many more. I haven't got there yet. We don't need to be seeing each other as competition. We need to be urging each other on and supporting each other so that we can help more and more. And that is my goal for 2018, to see if I can encourage others to believe in that.
Well, the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. Call Center Coach develops and unites the next generation of call center leaders. Through our e-learning and community, individuals gain knowledge and skills in the 6 core competencies that is the blueprint that develops high-performing call center leaders. Successful supervisors do not just happen. So go to callcentercoach.com to learn more about enrollment and download your copy of the Supervisor Success Path ebook now. All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the
Hump Day Hoedown.
Okay, Ian, the Hump Day Hoedown is a part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us a robust yet rapid response that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Ian Golding, are you ready to hoe down?
I'm just pulling my sleeves up. I'm ready.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
I'm the world's worst protagonist.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Be yourself.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
Honesty.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
My voice.
What would be one book that you'd recommend to our listeners? It could be from any genre. And of course, we'll put a link to Customer What on your show notes page as well.
Oh, thank you. Catcher in the Rye.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Ian Golding. Okay, Ian, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you've been given the knowledge and skills that you have now, and you can take them back with you, but you can't take it all. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
I think the skill is my ability to translate my thoughts into words. And if the ability to write publicly existed when I was 25, it'd be fascinating to see where I was today. But I didn't realize that I had the ability to write.
Ian, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
Yeah, well, I'm delighted for anyone to get in touch with me. I write every week. I'm prolific, irritating, some might say. But you can find all the information you want about me at my website, which is ijgolding.com. And to get my blog, it's /blog.
Ian Golding, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.